Hi, my name is Happy Verk. I joined Safri Boys in 1987.
I'm H, one of the former main band members. I'm play tabla.
Hi, my name is Gurmeet Nasser.
I'm Brit Jagpal. I'm the keyboard player with the Safri Boys. I joined the Safri Boys in 1990.
Hello, my name is Raj Chana. Full name Rajinder Pal Singh Chana.
Hi dosto, as you know, this is Tabzi Tolkiwala, and as the title would suggest, I was the Tolki player and door player for the Safri Boys.
Hi, my name is Shaba Sabash Ludera. I've joined Safri in 1993, I believe now.
Hi there, it's me again. The reason I'm doing this right now because the person next to me is quite shy. His name is Nirmal, aka.
Hey, my name's Balwinder Safri. I'm from London, so I enjoy the Safri Boys, who are a Birmingham band.
Hi, my name's Harry Matharu. I was the keyboard player for the Safri Boys. I was a late joiner to the band once the band was already established, and it was a natural transition for me to join once Boota began smashing it with B21.
Hi guys, it's Simon Dolly here. Joined the Safri Boys in the year 2000, so quite similar to Harry's story.
Hi, my name's Simon, and I was the sound engineer for Safri.
I am Sana Atwell. I'm the mantra of the Safri Boys.
Welcome to Brit Asia TV for a very special episode where we're actually joined by one of the best bands in the UK, in my opinion, the Safri Boys, for a Safri Boys reunion. Now, you know, a reunion often means everyone is obviously here, but sadly, lead singer Balwinder Safri passed away this year, which was watched by over 1 million people as the UK industry and wider Bhangra industry mourned the loss of Safri. You know, in this episode, we'll be celebrating the good times. We're talking to the original band members, those who joined later on, and really going down memory lane, because for people like myself, these guys were superheroes to me. You know, for other people, they were idols. But we're absolutely delighted to be joined by the Safri Boys as we pay homage to one of the greats, Balwinder Safri. The Safri Boys, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, I want to go straight into it, because it's been like, you know, an up and down time of year. Not just, you know, with Safri itself, but so many artists have passed away this year. You know, you had Taz, you know, Sidhu Moosewala passed away, and then obviously Safri passed away. And, you know, all these deaths impacted different generations of, you know, music lovers, music fans, band members, and an industry. You know, it's not a question that, you know, it's nice to ask, but, you know, when Safri passed away, how did it impact all you guys? Because for some people, it was unexpected. You know, not a lot of people knew that he wasn't well. You know, people always saw him as this star that was always on stage, you know, performing, giving it his all. And then suddenly, out of the blue, you know, he's gone. You know, how was it for you guys? Because realistically, you guys weren't just a band, you're family. You know, everyone has, you know, your actual blood family, then you have your family that you work around. You guys were a family to Safri. You know, how was it when you guys heard the news? And how did it impact you guys?
I think when Baji passed away, it was a huge shock. You know, we visited him in hospital. We had the reports from the hospital that he was making progress. He was going to come out. He was going to rehab. And, you know, we were praying, thinking, okay, Baji, you know, you were the ultimate superstar. You were the Michael Jackson of the Punjabi scene. And he was, you know, and always will be the biggest thing that ever happened in the Bhangra industry. I think when he came out and we thought he was going to rehab, and the sudden him getting pneumonia and passing away was just a shock. And like you just said, Tej, we're family. You know, it wasn't that, you know, we're family. You know, we live together, we talk together. You know, weekends. It was a strain on families because people had jobs, but the shock of itself. And yeah, I know the whole industry and people of the world, but to us, we're still mourning. We're still mourning this huge loss. because he was so young, he wasn't old. Yeah, he had some issues with health. We get that, but just to leave us, at his age, it's put a void in our lives. More with the band members. Week in, week out, we played together, we ate together, we functioned together. How many weddings that we have performed at thousands of weddings over the years? Everyone's mourning. But today, we've come to celebrate Baji's life and to set the record straight and tell everybody, this is who we are. We're just not a band, we're a family. We're the Safri family. And, Raj?
Yeah, we all share similar sentiments, what he just spoke about. The Safri Boys is like a family. There's many layers to it, the way we all interacted with each other over the years, our families. We all know each other, we all know each other's kids. We attended everybody's functions, and through all of that, Safri was always there with us, be sort of like rejoicing with us, the good times. We saw a few bad times maybe, but, he was there, with us, sharing those moments. So when Safri passed away, it was like, even though, we knew, about the illness and what he was going through, he still came as an almighty shock. And it took a while before he actually sank in. And it still is sort of sinking in, because it's in the quieter moments when you're on your own, say, that, you might hear a certain song or a lyric or something might come up on your phone, and it takes you right back, and you think, sometimes it can be just too much to sort of like handle, but, we're dealing with it, and, it helps that the boys are sort of so unified and we're all together, as I was saying, like a family kind of way, that, we're getting through this, and long live Safri in his, what he's done and what he's achieved, because it was phenomenal. The legacy that is left behind is just sort of like, it can rival all the top stars out there. You name them, Safri's name's, is up there with them.
All I've got to say is, right, I'm so glad, right, that this lad here, right, is to come to my garage and I should do some work for him. Got me introduced to all these boys, and brought Safri down to the garage once with his Cavalier. It was a Cavalier, wasn't it? With his petrol problems. And I'd seen him on television once with a Shocker group, but I'd never thought I'd be part of his band. And I thank all these boys here, right, for inviting me into the band, right? And I spent a lot of good times. Safri is always going to be there with us. I still think he's just around the corner somewhere. Every time the song plays, you think, oh yeah, man. And all of a sudden you realize he's not here. So it's very difficult, right? But I'm so thankful to God for making me meet all these boys and actually playing with him. Because you don't realize how good he was until he's gone. And he was brilliant.
As a collective, did you ever think the Safri Boys would reach the heights that they did? Because realistically, you peaked and knocked off everyone. As a singer, from musicians to producers, as stage presence, did you really expect to kind of come in and just change the scene? And the reason I asked that is because I spoke to an artist not long ago, and he said, if you look at weddings now, and you look at all the songs that are playing, he goes, you're still guaranteed to have Safri songs playing at weddings. And these songs released 20 plus years ago. You're still guaranteed, people want to see him at weddings, whether it's a PA, a band, or whatever. The demand was still there, even after so long, even with the next generation after next generation. Did you actually expect the Safri Boys to be as big as you guys were?
To be honest with you, like when we formed the band Safri Boys, I did have an inkling that we are going to be big. But I didn't realize we were going to be that big. Because when we finished our first album, Bomba Tumbi, we were, myself and Safri were absolutely happy with the album, saying, Tiga, you know what I mean, they should do some damage on the scene. But the way the public took it on board, they were like, yo, this is different. This is a new, you know, kind of generation, new sound. This is what the youngsters wanted at the time. And they took us in, everyone, and the general public as well. They appreciated what we had done. And obviously the bookings started flying in. We were performing at shows, university shows, left, right, centre, up and down the country, abroad as well. And wherever we would go, people, you know, the crowd would appreciate that, you know, we have come to see the Safri Boys. And that was the main attraction on that aspect. As obviously there were other bands performing with us, but majority of the crowd, they were there to see the Safri Boys because they had never heard that kind of sound. And the performance at Safri, you know, obviously the lead singer, vocally he was untouchable in the 90s. No one could touch him. The only next person to him was probably Malkit Singh. But Safri was above everyone. And we used to have quite a few gigs where the promoter would have a gig like Safri Boys versus Malkit Singh. I remember the one gig we had in Watford. And to us, it was a competition, but it wasn't like a malicious competition. It was a more healthy competition. Like, we want to be better than the next artist, and so we actually did our homework to have a banging intro. We had the rocky music coming on stage, and we even had this is, before Sen actually joined. We had Brian Thornycroft to actually manage us for that one gig, because it was so important that we needed to make sure everything was done properly. We had lighting rig, special effects for that particular gig. And we knew that we had to shine for the fans out there and the crowd, and the gig was phenomenal. It was out of this world. Both acts performed absolutely, you know, brilliantly. But personally, it was like, yo, we've done some damage today. People are going to remember this. And people do still to this day talk about that gig. That, yo, I remember going to that gig. That was one of the best gigs we've ever been to.
That's the question I want to ask about rivalry, right? Like, rivalry, what you have now amongst your DJs, producers, is completely different. It's toxic. And you can call it toxic.
No, exactly. But those days, it wasn't toxic. It was more friendly. Like, you know, it wasn't like, oh, you know, we're going to do this band over or whatever. It was more like, yo, we want to perform better than the next band.
Did anybody's egos ever get hurt when it was a bad performance? So if you're up against Malkit Singh, Golden Star, and you haven't delivered?
If we hadn't delivered, the band would know about it.
I would get a bollocking after.
I would make sure the band knew about, yo, you lot, what the hell have you done today? You know what I mean? And that was my job, like, make sure that, and if anyone made a mistake or a major cock up, they would know about it.
Just in addition to what Boot is saying there, these competitions you're talking about is always going to be Safri versus Malky. Yeah. And prior to joining the Safri Boys, I was with Malkit Singh then.
Traitor.
You can talk. So I remember a lot of these shows being put on, and you'd find Safri versus Malky, and we'd go on stage, and yes, we're always going to perform. Every band in those days used to perform to their best ability. All the rehearsals always used to go in. But what we used to always do is go on stage, do our performance as a band, but then we'd also invite each other back on stage right at the end of it to show that, you know what, we're actually all brothers in the same music industry here. So that was always a good touch to it, but it gave the public what they wanted to see. They want to see that drama, they want to see the good music being played, and I think we worked well together like that.
You know, you mentioned like the band knew if they messed up. Like, how do you rectify something like that? Like in football, you make them run laps, right, until they're tired. Yeah. Like, as a band, do you just keep rehearsing?
Yeah, and ban every member from drinking.
That worked.
Next gig, you're not drinking. That's it, full stop. And that used to hurt him. Because I go, yo, ek da pile de. I go, no drinking allowed. So that was probably the only punishment.
Who used to break the rules, right? Me and Happy.
I was influenced by him.
And you influenced me.
It was going to be to influence me.
These two always used to try and sneak off and have a quick drink. But occasionally I did used to find them, and then they used to get a bit of mouthful off me. And but they were good. They were good about it. But at the same time, as I said, we were all family. And so they used to listen. We were like, who's he telling us what to do? You know, that kind of vibe. It was all like a family. We would have our arguments, but within a couple of hours, we were all back together again.
You mentioned this, like, you know, you took on a senior kind of role, right? But you was quite young at the time.
Yes.
So, and everyone was quite young at the time, right?
Yes, yes.
Minus, you know, right? But how was that kind of responsibility on your shoulders? Like, you know, a young band taking orders from someone who's even younger. Like, how did you guys gel? Because not everyone kind of listens to youngsters.
No, I mean, the beauty was everyone, like in certain bands, you have certain groups. With us, everything was done together. It wasn't like we had two separate, you know, people doing their own stuff, another person doing his own stuff. We would do everything together. Like, after every gig virtually, we used to end up going to some kind of restaurant and all, you know, sitting down, having a laugh, talking about the gig or
The
future
rewards
gigs.
of performing well, the rewards for working hard were there as well.
And there's another kind of thing you mentioned was, you know, success. How did you guys measure success as a band? Because, okay, bookings are one thing, and now you've got your iTunes charts, which you can manipulate, your fake YouTube views, etc. But how did you guys measure success in terms of you're putting a product out there, is it going to work, is it not?
One of the things with Bom the Tumbi, sorry to interrupt, right? I was going to say this earlier as well. Bom the Tumbi was one of the first albums that we saw that no matter where you walked, whether it was Soho Road or Southall Broadway, it was blaring in everybody's cars, right? And I think we went to Canada soon after, and people had Safri Boys actually written on their windscreens, and Safri Boys on the front, and Bom the Tumbi on the back screen. Now, in pre-social media days, that has to be a serious measure of success. You know, that wasn't even in Birmingham or anything else. I'm talking about Montreal and Toronto and Vancouver, right? Where people may not have recognised us walking down the road because, it's pre-social media and everything else. But we could see what was written on their cars and everything else because of, companies like Music Waves in those days. Music Waves is one of our first promoters in Canada, right? And so they distributed through, in conjunction with Roma, so they distributed the tapes and records in those days in Canada and America, right? So the music actually filtered out. And even to date, Senna mentioned New York. I was out there a few months ago, and those guys in New York, right, they can name, we had played a little game where, pick a letter, and they could name a band in England beginning with that letter. There's something I couldn't do, right? So we, Bom the Tumbi set the pace for that. That was one of the first albums, right, where the original copies, not pirated copies, but original copies actually went out, and people, it was fine to send the copies out there, and then if nobody bought them and nobody latched onto them, then that would have been the end of that. But original copies to go out there that people actually said, yeah, we identify with this. So that has to be a measure of success.
Yeah. But Senna, like yourself, you managed the band, right? How did you keep everyone humbled? Because, if you've gone from literally from zero to success overnight with this album and everything you're doing, you're touching gold, ego's going to come into play, but,
No, to be honest, ego was never an issue. It was never an issue because, personally, I think everyone in the band, obviously including Safri as well, were just too down to earth. And people were shocked when they used to meet us. They go, "You're the Safri Boys?" And we go, "Yeah," and they go, "But you're mega stars." We go, "No, we're not. We're just like
same
you."
as you.
And they couldn't believe that they were actually sitting down with us and having a drink or a conversation with us. And they were taken back, like, these guys are too down to earth. But at the same time, we never changed. Like you mentioned, we did have a lot of success, but we're still very humble as individuals as well, and as a unit. We would never go, "Oh, we're this and that." So that's why I think the general public appreciated that these guys are proper down to earth. We can actually approach them, talk to them without having a chip on your shoulder or anything like that.
I think the difference, like Brit has illustrated, is that I think at that time we just didn't know how successful we were. Yeah. I think at that time, if you look at the charts, yeah, we're there, but as a group, we're just a family. The boys just like gigging the weekends. Safri was the big brother. He'd go, "Okay, right." And my measure of success was how the phone was ringing, how many programs we're getting. And suddenly we're getting booking after booking. I'm going, "Baji, look, we've got 4 gigs next week." The vocal called Tika. We've got a gig in London. We've got a gig in Manchester. We've got the weddings. And some weekends we'd have a wedding on a Saturday lunchtime, as it is, Saturday evening party, and a Sunday wedding. Now, it's hard, yeah, and we're travelling up and down the country. It took pressure on everyone's families because everybody had a day job. Baji it was his life, but we all had day jobs, and then the families and kids. But the measure of success was how the phone was ringing. But like Brutus illustrated, we're just normal. We sit down. It doesn't matter if you've got £1 or £1 million or £1 billion. It doesn't matter. We sat down. We had a drink with you. We chatted with you. There was no. Well, actually, no. We can't see you. We're going to do this. There'll be the guys will be wrapping up. We didn't have roadies to wrap all the gear up. Everyone did it themselves. We helped each other. So that was the unit. And I think, as Brutus said, we all guys together. We're like a family unit, and we said hello to everybody and we said goodbye to everybody. But we never thought this attitude or chip on shoulder. Actually, we're bigger than them. We're bigger than them. The public made us the biggest. The public by far made us the biggest band ever.
And I think an important point you mentioned was, the humbleness, because obviously when you have a singer of a band, they assume automatically the singer would have the biggest ego. He's the forefront and he can kind of shift, etc., etc. But clearly,
no, I mean, like even when we used to do interviews, like Safri used to always insist, Mundio, nah, no, mere. Even when we used to go abroad, like obviously we used to go abroad, have a late night session or something, and then in the morning, Safri, we got an interview, and half the boys would go, nah, listen, we're a bit got hangovers. He goes, Nate, Saren Janaya. When we always to travel together, do the interviews together, and that's where the public actually heard us on the radios. Actually, these guys are, we can relate to them. They're just like us. And we used to have a good laugh, just tell us, like we're doing now, tell our stories to the general public. This is how we formed, this is, individual members, this is what everyone plays individually. And that's what the public liked. Because if you got a chip on your shoulder, like, that's what people dislike now. Like you said, in this generation now, it's more about the frontman singer. They don't really talk about the band. It's always, the front, these days, there's not many bands out there now. But back in the 90s, it's all about the band effort and how much we achieved as a unit. And that's the main way we have as a unit. We worked as a unit. We never worked as individuals. We worked as one unit. And as one unit, no one could mess with us. That was the beauty of it. So, yeah.
And also on that is that when we were on tour, we didn't have different hotels. We all stopped at the same hotel, next room after next room after next room. So Podgy, normally if I did 2, 3 tours, I would stop with Podgy in the room, but we wouldn't have like, Podgy's on a different floor. We want all the same rooms next to each other because Podgy's part of the team. End of the day, it was we were drinking and laughing and joking. One room, next room, food, etc. And then, like Brutus said, after weddings, we go to a restaurant. Podgy goes to Luxana, let's go to a restaurant, let's all eat together, and we'll all sit down and eat.
You boys mentioned drinking culture. You boys mentioned tour culture. Let's go straight into it.
Yeah, within reason. It was like, we would get rat-assed after every gig. It was... Oh, okay. I mean, it was all like within a moderation, it wasn't like...
Was that drinking while working?
Yes.
In proportion.
Yeah, okay, I'll be serious. It was, but everyone, everyone knew that.
Moderation.
No one would get too intoxicated before they went on stage. Otherwise, I'll be the first one to say, what the hell are you playing at? Today you're not getting paid. And that would, resolve the issue straight away. But everyone was, for the first 2 years, I just give them hell. Because I wanted them to get into a routine, like this is how I want things to be done. After about 2 years, I go, lads, Bilo Jinipini on. Oh, no, Bilo Jinipini, but Asab Nabil. You know what I mean? Asab Nabil. But one character, you always just take the...
Who was the biggest culprit?
Well, Tubbsy was the king of the culprits, and then Happy took over, and then Lita did. But all the rest... And
then you met Shabba.
Then we met Shabba.
I think there were a lot of batons passed on in this band, right? And I'm really proud of my younger brother Shabba. Right. I love him, mate. I love him.
See, as an outsider, obviously the band, Safri Boys are quite established.
Malakit's band would never do this, would they?
Sorry?
Malakit's band would never do this.
Well, that's what I'm just coming on to that. The Safri Boys are quite established. And
nowhere close to us.
One of the things that attracted me was the party lifestyle, so I think I fitted quite in. And Shabba's, Tubbsy, be proud.
I think you're right. I think Buta Buta was the stage man. He looked at everything, and he was strict because it was about music and it's about the public and the persona and making sure we came out right. I think as far as, you know, yeah, we had a good time. We're very professional, you know, and that was very important, and especially to Podgy, because obviously the lead singer was there. But as far as, I mean, we did lots of tours, and the boys will go on now and tell you about them. But for me, one of the best things that we ever did was we played the Icon Gallery in Birmingham, the only band to ever do it. The gallery director rang Podgy and said, look, he said, we're doing a multicultural event with all these photographs about Punjabi lifestyle, etc. He said, I want you to do a gig outside. And so, you know, Podgy rings me, you know, this Icon Gallery, we went to have a look at it. I went, hang on, outside? I said, well, if it rains, don't worry about it. But the director was amazing. And we're the only bands that have ever done it. No one's ever done it since. They've never invited another band. The Icon Gallery is kind of world famous now, you know. For me, that was kind of a surreal moment that, you know, of all the English bands and reggae bands and punk bands they could have invited, they invited Safri Boys.
With mainstream bands, right, it was a rock and roll party lifestyle, right? You perform, go out, live it up, start again. Was it the same with Safri Boys? As in, when I say go out, I don't mean go to a mixed grill place or a restaurant. Was it ever you go out?
Well, no, when you say out, we didn't do the champagne at £1,000 a bottle and the limousines. We did the Puff and Billy, the pint of beer at the locals, because who sat with local people? The happy hour. We sat with locals, you know, we drank at local places, we drank where we lived, so we knew who we were. But yeah, we were rock stars, or the guys were rock stars, but not in what you were going to say in Manhattan and New York.
With people who loved us.
Yes.
With people who loved us.
Top 3 mixed grill places where you went to celebrate?
The Puff and Billy, and the Puff and Billy.
I think the one place we always ended up in was Golden Moments in Walsall, right? So just when Safri passed away, right, one of the waiters used to be down there. He come down to the garage and he says, Podgy, I remember all the good times we had with you guys, because you guys were so chilled. And they used to wait for us to go there every week.
And you know, and the other beauty was like Safri would actually go into the actual kitchen area and actually put the torka in himself and put the mercha in for us. Yeah. And they used to be absolutely fine with that. They wouldn't let anyone else do it. But if we turned up there, Safri goes, yo, main janda kitchen che. And he would put the mercha and masala and everything, the food, and absolutely brilliant.
And one thing Safri did was when he packed his case, we always had green chilies in his case. Yeah. It's because any restaurant we went to Portsmouth somewhere once, and they just couldn't cook curry, and you always had green chilies. Green chilies and earbuds. Earbuds are shared with Shabba.
I think he's got proof of it. No. Shabba, get it out.
It looks like that these days.
Happy, come on. Best performance, best tour.
Just before I get there, right, I want to ask one question. It's a big band. Who picked up the bill?
You.
Always.
They had to. We were skint.
And every birthday,
He killed us.
whose birthday it was, he paid the bill.
There was once
Right, so if it was your birthday,
I missed out on that then.
You paid the bill.
There was once we were coming back from Slough, right? And just before you get on the M40, there's that little pub palm, right?
Yeah. But they didn't want to.
Silly question, right? But we went in there and it seemed a bit rough. It was full of. You remember that? Right? And Safri just walked in and he just turned the whole situation around. He just turned around and he said, "Drinks are on." Yeah.
No, the famous line when we walked in was, he looked in, this is the only Sardar with the big Punjabi style pug, and this is all old, middle-aged white people. Safri walks in, "Hello, everybody!" Everybody goes, "Hi!" And that was it.
Yeah, it's just drinks on me. He bought around for the whole pub. Right, we were supposed to go in there. He goes, this is when I stopped drinking. Right, he goes, "Koi 15 minute de de, 15-20 minute de de." Right. No, we were there for about 4.5, 5 hours. Right.
Which explains the getting home at 4 o'clock every time.
How did you explain getting home so late? Because I'm guessing at this time, some of you weren't married, some of you weren't married.
Traffic.
No, Simon's was a charity show.
Probably had to go and attend an autograph signing. The queue was huge. So a lot of that was charity shows. And the mom and dad said they'll pay kitty for we went to the kitty. Yeah, little things like that.
But when you guys kind of travelled abroad, was there a rock and roll lifestyle then? Or were you guys like the in-betweeners?
I'll give the mic over there now.
Or was that the in-betweeners? New country?
The first time we went to Canada, right, me and Safri were the last ones to get off the plane, right? We were also the last ones at the bar with the miniatures on the plane. And we were both wrecked, right? And Safri had a hand luggage bag, and we got off and I said, "Bra, tu singer, menu chak lende." "Oh, no, tu mera chota bra, menu chak lende." We were both arguing over the bag, right? And it was like these Canadians, like, you know, came to, you know, it's like, yeah, the Safri Boys and everything else, but they were all still looking for Balwinder Safri, and it's me and him arguing over a bag because that was him. He was like, "It's my bag, I'll carry it. It's no issue."
Who roomed with who? Like, how did you decide who's sleeping with who? Or was it after a show everyone's gotten together?
Good question. I mean, we used to have, you know, own groups. Like Happy would normally share with Gurmeet, myself with Raj, Tubbsy with a bottle of Bacardi.
It was who anybody got on with. You know, the sleepers will be sleepers.
Yeah.
And the guys want to party will party. So I say we're going to meet.
So who's the best? Listen, I got to look after my...
The party man he was back in the days. Well, he still is.
And I still do it.
That's it.
Who was the baby of the group? As in, like, the lightweight, everyone to look after?
Oh, wait.
Lightweight in drinking?
Lightweight drinking, lightweight everything. Oh, wait. It was,
None of us, really.
It was the baddest one.
Probably Safri.
There was Taj.
Oh, Taj, yeah.
Taj.
One thing just, I want to touch on, which you guys mentioned, just before we kind of talk more, is you had other members that came and went, and these guys filled in, helped you guys out. How did you guys kind of find these people, and, what relationship did you have with these people?
If I can, right, I would really, right, and if the guys are listening, right, I'm talking about my instrument, the bass, right. I would like the one guy, Raju, rest in peace, Raju. Thank you for covering for me many a times. And then we got Popsy Sierra, right, he covered for me many a times when I couldn't go. And we got Prem, covered for me many a times, and I thank you all so much, right? Raju, thank you. Right, I hope you are with Safri now, right? And you know what? And then we got all these other chaps used to come down, right? And we had a lot of people who did come, covered for a little while here, a little while there, right? And we thank them all, right?
Likewise.
Yeah.
I sort of say a big thank you to, I think, Bal from Excellency. He helped me out a lot.
Yeah.
Bal from Excellency helped me out a lot. There was times I couldn't make it for personal or whatever reason, because let's not forget, Safri has gigs, the bands have gigs. You have a life. You've got family members gigging. You've got family functions to go to. Either you're going to miss your family function, or you're not going to be at the gig. So it was good to know that Tubbsy Sub, Bell were there available. People, Carol was available to help me out if I wasn't available, and so they could step in for me. Knowing that these guys are on top of the game, then they know what they're doing and they can just take over. It wasn't a case of we need the rehearsal tomorrow. They can just jump in, and it was always appreciated, really.
This is probably the only band where I passed the baton to him, and then once his liver started to pack up, he passed the baton back. So all good. Yeah.
I think it's a generic problem with talking players.
And the deaf. Yeah. And you.
I think it's a generic problem. It's not alcoholism. It's just that they can't hear, and they drink more. They'll hear a bit better. They keep drinking. And Simon, the poor engineer's going, "It's on maximum. You still can't hear. Well, just drink less."
Just book another record.
Tour-wise, you toured North America, India. Let's talk about India, because artists don't really talk about India much. Because, in that era of UK artists touring in India was a rare thing. To go to India, you had to be very, very good. You look at the musicians that, India's produced, the bands they produced, and now suddenly the Safri Boys are in India.
I remember that there, Mela Madali. I was quite young at the time, so I just watched. I used to go to the video shop to get the melle for like the Punjabi melle, like watching Gurdas Maan, Sadhu Sikandar. And then one time I went to the video shop, and there's a video case, and it's got Safri Boys on there and Mela Madali. Like, hey, this can't be right. What's going on here? So I put the tape in. And there's Chalamara Makra's going on. It's Mela Madali. It's a massive, massive Mela. And like Gurdas Maan goes there all the time. And next thing you know, you got Safri Boys there with their uniforms on, the black and white. And I think Gurchan Mal was on tour, I think.
He was.
And there's guys with black bags just throwing loads of money. Yeah. And I was thinking, oh my God, finally, like, there's a UK Bhangra band at a Punjabi Mela. Yeah, and it's not because when you see these video cassette covers, Hansraj, you got Gurdas Maan, Sadhu Sikandar, like mixed and do these Mela. And the next thing you know, Safri Boys at Mela Madali. So them days was a massive deal. I'm thinking, okay, but the story there in India, I wasn't there
to go to India, because I'm guessing for a lot of you it was the first time.
India, I remember Safri Boys and Kamar Sanu in Hyderabad, Ramoji Film City. One of the best shows I probably ever played at with Safri. Yeah. I mean, playing with Kamar Sanu, I love Kamar Sanu to bits.
Come on, sing a song, man.
Not tonight. But being on the same stage as Kamar Sanu and Safri Boys, it was
experience.
Absolutely out this world. The hotel, everything. Harry will remember, getting around in, on the scooter. But that was a tour that I will never forget, ever.
If I kind of dig through the archives. Give me a second.
You came on water, but is it?
No, I've got to find the right one.
मेरी छोटी नंगी फोटो होनी कोई
I'll save that one, but I want to kind of talk about an iconic picture, which is this one here.
Mer Mittal. Oh, that's not too bad, eh?
No, it was really... he produced one of the first albums that Safri did. I think the music was by Charanjit Ojha. Was it Happy? Yeah. And Mer Mittal actually produced that album. Mille Mitran De. Right, and that's the song that we won the Asian Song Contest with.
That guy was such a germ. Mer Mittal was such a germ, right? Because we...
Jam. Sona.
Right. We were at a gig, right? Okay, Hasselop Kakyo. We went to a gig, right?
Okay.
Where was it? Was it in Birmingham?
It's got to be the dome.
And we went to his dressing room, right? That's the one. And man, he was just going to the toilet and he seen us come to his dressing room. And he says, yeah, I know you did. Kona, theek hai, right? That can wait. Tusi mainu milna hai na. I gotta meet you first. Edda da banda siga. He was. Right? And then you helped him out, didn't you?
Yeah, what, on the toilet? I'm like, come on, son, get off. Tej, going back to the fashion, with Safri Boys' fashion, Happy was saying, Happy and Booty used to take Safri shopping.
Happy there with long hair?
Aquaman was made after, don't forget, after seeing these.
That was
So Asha Bosley, talk about that. How was it kind of...
She's going, shut up, Safri. It's my turn now.
Did you guys perform with her, or was it just...
She come out and she says, I want to do a song with you. But they had backed everything up, right? And when we went, we wanted to talk to her, right? And this guy says, no, you can't, right? And she says, oi, get out the way, right? Let him come.
Safri said
And she
very
was so
hard.
good.
I remember that.
Brilliant,
That's Roop Samurai doing security for her. he was booked to do security.
You know, with Bollywood, like, was there much of a fusion crossover? Because people seem to forget a lot of Bollywood kind of big stars listen to Punjabi music. Even like now, there's a lot of kind of Bollywood artists out there you think are involved in Punjabi music, don't listen to it, but they listen to your Punjabi artists. You know, Asha Bhosle was one. Was there any other kind of Bollywood, you know, collaborations, experiences you guys had?
Well, yeah,
When I think there was a very split. Bollywood's Bollywood, Punjabi was Punjabi, and I think if you look at the TV in them days, in the TV stations, you know, first they were doing. If you look at the local radios, you know, Asian Network, they were doing a little bit of Punjabi, then suddenly they were pushing more Bollywood, and there was a resistance from the UK stars. Hang on a minute, you know, you're the BBC or whatever stage, you should be pushing the UK artists, and Baji's really strong about these conversations with the TV stations and radio stations that you should push the UK artists and not obviously Indian artists. But there was no fusion, and it only came in, I reckon, to late 20s, 2010. You're starting to get a bit of fusion between people, but obviously Bollywood. But if you look at the songs and, you know, the crossover, Punjabi is still strong.
I'll add to that, so that just from one of our experiences, and the year was going from 2000 into 2001, Happy briefly mentioned, when we went to Hyderabad Film City. We went to play New Year's Eve. I think Punjabi music in general, if you listen back to songs, Bollywood songs from back in the Sir Per Topi, Mo Meri Mehbooba, those kind of years, there's always that Punjabi beat which has always been known, and it's always got people to dance. However, coming back to this New Year's Eve show in Hyderabad Film City, we're on stage with this biggest Bollywood star, massive Kumar Sanu fan. That was like knowing that we're going to be going on stage after him. We were actually going to bring in the new year. So Kumar Sanu's done his set. We're thinking, we've got to now do our bit and do that. Bearing in mind, anybody in Hyderabad ain't got a clue who the Safri Boys are. We had this show through some contacts, Anyway, went on stage, quick discussion with the lads. Are we going to start it with normal Chanra and Makna? Are we going to start it with this? We said, no, you know what? Let's just give me a chord. And Safri goes, I'm going to pick it up. He started singing other known Bollywood Bhangra type songs, Daler Mendi stuff. You know what? Just our beat, that's what the crowd started pumping to. So I think the fusion kind of stuff, right? I don't think it's much of a thing which sort of happened, but it's just our beat, our Bhangra beat that will always get people dancing, whether they know the Bhangra songs or not. And that's what we experience ourselves in Hyderabad. Yeah.
The other thing is about the demand for whether it was Safri or other artists from the UK in Bollywood. I think certainly with Safri was that it was loyal to the UK fans, right? To partake in film recordings or playback requires taking a lot of time out, right? And spending time there, right? You have to network, you have to get to know whatever. And that's time spent away from your loyal UK fans and your loyal UK bookings. And he just wasn't prepared to do that, right? This is where the heart was always.
Do you think that's what made you guys so successful, was your loyalty started at home first before you guys?
If a tour came, bearing in mind he could charge more for a tour, he would never cancel a UK booking.
If he had a booking, right, he would never cancel.
Never go back on his word, never. If he's committed, and in those days there wasn't deposits, there weren't any contracts, your word was your bond, and if he'd committed to it, that was it. I think Gurmeet, Raj and Bhutta, happy to remember, we had a booking in Bradford when we were really, really late. Right, our van driver, Jinder Muchi, right, he sort of double booked or whatever it was, and we turned up. And we knew that it was a hostile kind of environment, and we knew what was on the cards. He went straight away, he went on stage, he said, look, money, he's not going to come into this. I don't expect to get paid. But we committed to it. We're here. We're sorry we're late. And we performed. I think that was one of our best, we did
done a very
banging performance. Right? But that could quite easily have been, but he never did.
No. It come to it. We got down there, right? We set up so quick. Within 10 minutes, we were ready and we were playing. you could see the hostile reactions from some of the people. We done a brilliant show, no stops, no nothing. And when we finished, the guys come and says, do you want your money or you want chitta? Right? And there was no arguments, right? So the guys were so good, they just packed up the stuff, put it in. We never asked for anything, right? Where things went like. But a few weeks later, we seen a few of the same guys in another wedding, right? And you could see them feeling a bit sorry, right? Because we still went and gave them the 3 hours. It was 3 hours we played for, right? And because of traffic and all that, we got late. But the guy was, he didn't case us, right? Let's pack up, let's get away from here. We've done our thing. We gave him a good show. And that is one thing we can say. We didn't not go there. We went and done our job. Went away without any money, and it was...
Before we kind of go into these more pictures, you mentioned about timekeeping, right? Who was the latest? Who was always late? Whether it's waking up, getting to a show.
All right. He was, as I mentioned earlier, he was always happy because he used to have long hair, like I've got long hair now, but he used to have long hair, grey contact lenses, coke on his nose, and so he used to spend a good hour trying to get ready. Always 2 hours, yeah. Park up outside his yard, beep beep on the horn, pop his head out the window with a hairdryer going, oh, 5 minutes, give me 5 minutes, give me 5 minutes. I go, make your own way down. So he was always the one that was the latest.
Who was the slickest dressed? Because here, it looks
Happy
like...
again?
Yeah?
Yeah.
So this picture of Hans.
Oh, bloody hell. Where are you pulling this out from? Where was that one?
The dome, wasn't it?
Happy, what are you wearing a suit for?
Oh, yeah. Did I come back from my wedding or not?
Behind the picture there.
How was it performing alongside Hans?
I think that was West Bromwich Town Hall.
No, that's dome.
Was that Dome?
No, that was dome.
I mean, performing like with artists like Hans as well. Hans, well, it was good, but at the same time, we had the golden nugget. We had Safri. You know what I mean? That you could, put him on stage with any artist, and we know that he would deliver without fail.
I think as Brit said, the dome was the biggest thing, and back in the day, it was the biggest one, and obviously how much it suited the promoter, brought all the artists in. But the UK people, it was UK bands, it was Safri. Yeah, Hans Rajan is amazing. All these singers from overseas were great, but Safri was still the headline act. We were still the headline act, so they'd all come on, do their set, but all the crowd, the Birmingham crowd, were there for Safri.
Side note, beyond Happy, let's take him out of the equation. How important was dress sense to the rest of the boys?
They had no dress sense at all.
Yeah, that's true.
They got out of bed and just came to the gig.
Happy was probably the only one that used to wear designer clothing and everything.
We got a Safri Boy t-shirt we wore it for about 4 years.
We tried to get uniforms, but it just didn't work because it just didn't work. We forgot them, we didn't iron them, didn't wash them. So it was just whatever you got on stage, you went on stage with.
Let's talk about the legend, Shirinder Shinda. Stories behind this.
I can't. Was that the one where they all came down?
Yes.
All the indie artists.
That was
a more gig.
Binder Raketo.
Binder Raketo, yeah.
The one we did,
The one you spoke to Binder Raketo as manager.
NIA.
Yeah. Is that the waist jacket?
Yes. That's
Oh, yes.
So Simon,
I remember
Simon
now.
again, just say a few words, come on. Is that the one we had to keep clapping with Camp?
Well, we had an occasion, we've played at the $1 Million Club at a wedding, and we've got a show at the NIA, a big, very big show with Binder, and it was another talkie player. Always a talkie player, and it was another talkie player. So Binder has come on stage, and we've headlined or whatever, right? And my man, Shaba, decided to take his jacket off. He's taking his jacket off, not knowing that he had nothing on underneath. At the big show at NIA.
I don't know what.
The Undertaker was here.
Was it the tea? Was it the tea or coffee?
Coffee. I like coffee.
Oh, coffee.
Coffee. It's a coffee. Always coffee. Irish coffee, yeah?
I think he had too much Irish coffee.
And then we had an issue with the sound, didn't we?
No, I mean, that show was, I think all the band members remember that show because it wasn't one of our best performances.
Oh.
And Safri made it known to everyone, the band members, that was disgraceful what we did. And I understood exactly where he was coming from because Safri was next to his peers, from Bindrakia to Hansraj, they were all there. And our performance wasn't on par that what we used to do. And Safri made it clear to everyone after the performance that, don't ever do that again. And we all felt it.
Was it like a quiet drive back?
It was. Safri wasn't happy at all. That's the only time I've seen him losing with the actual band members. But we had 2 gigs, and that one we messed up on. But the next one we had next week, we had 4 rehearsals. And we on the second gig, we delivered. And even the Hans Rajis, Bindrakias, they go, you guys are something else. But we knew that we had to show the indie artists that what the UK bands were all about, and we delivered. And everyone knew that Safri wasn't happy about the first performance. But we as a collective band, we have to deliver. And I personally myself, because obviously me and Safri were quite close back in the day like that. I go, Safri, look, don't worry, the guys messed up. But it won't happen again. It would never happen again. And it actually never did. But that was the only time our performance was below par.
All I can imagine is that minibus driving back, everyone's sitting there in silence, right? Somebody must have broke the ice. Or was it just...
No, it was... No, as I say, that was probably one of our worst performances ever, to be honest with you. But it was very rarely that we ever gave a bad performance. But that one always sticks in my mind anyway. But that was a one-off. Sometimes you have a good day, bad day, but that was just a one-off bad day.
Did anybody ever forget their instruments?
One minute. I'll tell you what. Forget instruments. Safri once left his pug. Forget instruments. Yeah, it was in Leeds, Yeah. It was in Leeds, and we've got the setup. And Safri used to keep obviously going to a gig where wear a cap, and he opened up his suitcase. He goes, "Oh, yaar, meri pag kar bhul gaya." And we're going, what do you mean? That's the only instrument you're supposed to bring with you? And so I think, did you go with him? Yeah, they went to a local
bug
shop. And and normally he's about 12 meters.
8 meters.
And 8 meters. And the shop didn't have 8 meters, only about 4 meters. And he had the most littlest pug on his head. Oh, it was hilarious. It was hilarious. And it was pink.
Another pug story, if you like, that used to happen regularly, used to be when we were going on tours, yeah. And as we were sort of nearing landing, Safri would want to sort of prepare himself for the meet and greet kind of thing that used to happen with the promoters. So he'd arrive in the plane with his cap on or something, yeah. Then he's got to sort of smarten up by the time he's going to get off the plane. So what does he do in the plane? The pug used to come out, and I don't know how.
One guy at the end of the aisle over there, and Sen on the other side. Oh, Salah, catch it! And the Gori on the plane going, what are these guys doing?
Yeah.
What they doing? I'm going, and something. Oh, Salah, oh, catch it! Hilarious, absolutely hilarious.
Air India.
Seatbelts on.
Instruments. Who forgot them?
You did as well, yeah, Lita.
I did once.
Yeah.
But it wasn't my fault.
It never is.
It was.
No, because you guys were supposed to pick the gear up for me.
Oh,
right?
It
was at somebody's house. And when we got down there, my bass guitar wasn't there.
No, your bass wasn't in the case. We took your case, the bass wasn't in there. You was rehearsing or something, you left it in your front room.
Did you forget something?
No, man.
Cymbals loads of times. Kick drum, cymbals.
I was known for losing the Tolkien as well.
That's
where's the Tolkien?
Sometimes we even used to lose the Tolkien player. we once found him in a phone box.
Or the ladies' toilets. But that's another story.
Let's talk about album covers. You don't get these anymore. Now it's all digital. But if you go through fashion, you got...
but I've got a few of those for you.
You got Majinda, looking very slick. You got Buta, looking very young. You got Happy.
Yeah. Still young.
Then you got the rest of the crew.
There's more as well. There's other members after that. The centre page is always the band one.
You got Safri, you got Gurmeet.
And Raj. No, Raj was first, then Tubsy.
Tubsy, right at the back.
Maybe.
You know, just look at this. What memories does this bring back to you guys?
That was our first.
There were other photographs taken on that photo shoot.
But we picked that one for Dubs.
Yeah.
That was his best side.
He wanted that one.
Okay, the story behind that was that we went our first ever European tour. Was it Austria? Austria, and we were playing with Achanak, and obviously Achanak, they had an Indrajal with them for their publicity and everything, and they had similar merchandise to give to the non-Asian crowd out there, which was good. And so when we get back to the UK, that's the first thing that we did. We actually produced those. So when we do go on tours, we can actually hand these out. It'd be a nice memento for the fans to have something. And that's probably done back in 1992-ish. So that's, it's lasted a long time.
I think we took that to the first...
Canadian, yeah. Yeah.
One thing was mentioned, and I can't remember who said it, was the Safri Boys and Safri, he was the people's champion, basically. He cared about the people more than he cared about anything else, materialism, etc. Let's talk about this thing here. And the reason I want to highlight this is a newspaper kind of clipping, and it has the Safri Boys in control. And it's not just the fact that it's the Safri Boys in control, it's on the bottom right, you've got Jazzy B. And the reason this kind of stuck out to me is because you've got the Safri Boys who are at the peak of the game, and then you've got someone who's kind of rising through the ranks, etc. Did you ever look over your shoulders to see who's the next competition, who's coming? Or was it a case of stay in your lane and go forward?
Like I probably mentioned earlier, we didn't actually look over our shoulders at all because, as I said, we had the golden nugget, our front man, who was always delivering without fail. Safri never gave a bad performance, and we knew that every time we went on stage, we would deliver the goods. And so we would, never think about the next artist behind us, or the upcoming star, whoever, because we knew that we had the actual golden nugget with us to deliver what we wanted to do, and as a band, we could deliver that on stage to the general public.
In fact,
we're in our lane, and that was it.
That Vancouver tour, the first Vancouver tour, we were quite, was talking about.
Actually, what was I to say? Yeah.
Yeah, we played at this venue where, you remember, where the water was behind us and
BC Plaza.
Jazzy was actually at that show, right? And this is before he became Jazzy B. This was just Jaswinder Benson. He was with his friends and family and everything else. And even till date, he talks about that and how he saw, because me and Buta still play with Jazzy, and how he saw us, and not just Safri, but as, obviously Safri as well. He saw the band, and he was really inspired by the Safri Boys that day and that performance. And there was another UK band there as well. Shakti was there as well. But we sort of stood out more, and he took that style on board, and somewhere along the lines you can see that in his early albums as well. So it's not a question of us looking over our shoulders or whatever else. It's we were doing what we were doing, and people were doing that for us because they were being influenced and being inspired and emulating it.
I was going to say, sorry, joining Safri in '93. Safri again was top of the board at the time, in my eyes anyway, at least, and there's no one even coming close. So whilst with Safri, seeing everyone else performing, seeing all the other bands, there was never a challenge that I saw. It was never a competition. It was always we are. It was just focus on the gig, focus on the tours, focus on the show tomorrow or the rehearsal, and tomorrow is another day, and that's how we really worked.
Did you ever kind of deal with negativity or hate? Because reality is you can't always just have all positivity, right? Like now, there was that period in the 2000s when message boards came around, and people used to flood message boards. Then obviously came your Facebooks, your Twitters, etc. But in that era, you know, was there negativity, or how did you ever know about criticism and things like that? Or was it just if someone didn't like you, or you scratched someone the wrong way, they came and said it?
I think
We did have an incident once on tour, again in Canada, but it was brief, and it was soon resolved, right? Where the other bands, other sort of a bit of rivalry, if you like, or our performance, or we were better received, right? But other than that, I don't think we really came across much.
I think it's the reverse, actually, if anything. Well, we should sense it like, because we were sort of like from a very humbling background, other bands we should think were sort of like envious of us because of the unity that we had amongst us, the friendship that we had. We knew that other bands had their own kind of like little problems and their own infighting and whatever else. But, we were sort of a different ball game altogether. The way we got on, the recordings, and we also used to we used to hear little sound bites like that, no doubt, even without the social media, we used to hear things, but, if anything, that just made us stronger. We just got more and more sort of like, stronger within ourselves,
Yeah, but Senna, as a manager, like, how did you deal with that? Because
I think as a group, I think there's only probably one situation we've ever had, and it's always at a wedding where, can you sing another song? And the venue's gone, look, you got to close, the music's off, etc. And it was once, I think we were playing locally, then we were playing in Bradford, and Safri said, we can't sing no more because we've done the music off, etc. And they said, wait till next week, we'll sort you out, you know what I mean? And obviously, Bodgy said to me, and I think we took the security guys with us for one gig, and Bodgy goes, I said, Bodgy, look, it's nothing, it's only words, they're drunk, it's not, no. I got all the boys there, he said, we'll ring the security guy, and he brought 3 or 4 of his guys up, and they just sat in the back, not just in the back, and obviously everyone came on stage, they came running forward, I went, stop, just stop. It was only once. What it is, we're governed by the policies of the venues, and the venues, and some venues just have a policy that's it, 5 the music's off. You keep playing, they hit the button, and they blow all the amps, and £1,000. So we just say, look, that's it. You go talk to the venue, you talk to them. Why do you sing? We go, yeah, for another half an hour. But when you book till 6 o'clock, you book till 6 o'clock, And that was always difficult because within the Punjabi culture, the men don't start drinking and getting drunk till 5, and they want to start dancing till 7, as we all know. Like we all come lines. And as for the musicians, they've got a job to do, and the front man's got a job to do. And obviously we just say, look, okay, the guy who booked us, and obviously I'd always make contact with the guy who booked us to say, right, these are the times, etc. Any problems, go straight to his table, look, you need to sort this out. And then sometimes they come on stage and look, that's it, yeah, it's over. But you have that, and that's just the drink talking. But generally, we never had any issues at all.
Apart from the times, right? We've been to some weddings and all that. Tusi tape la ke gande ha. We used to be very tight. Thanks to that, man.
I mean, yes. So sometimes we used to get accused of putting tape on the background, which to us I go, that's a compliment because we know we're playing live. But if you think we've got tape on, we must sound good. Just because obviously the recordings were done by the band itself, and so we used to sound exactly like the tape. So obviously,
and that's where Safri would come out and say, okay, right, stop, musicians. You get the CD, yeah, okay, stop. He'd stop every musician and say, right, okay, stop. I'm going to sing now. Yeah, I'm going to sing now. And he'd say, okay, stop. Everybody stop, and he'd start singing. And this is not a CD. This is my band. And he was always complimentary of the band. And look, this isn't a CD. We're good. We try very, very hard. We rehearse. And it's only happened a few times, but like Boot, it's a compliment. Because when you heard the CD and you heard us live, there's no differential. And you would.
As a sound engineer, right, we've got everything right. We used to actually flip out the CD player and say there's no CD in there. Flip out the tape player, there's no tape player in there, there's nothing in there.
What was the one last song? At the end of every party, right? A DJ's like, one more. Was it like an infamous one last Safri song or?
So what Bodgy would do, and obviously he'd give Boot the clock. That's it. Yeah. So the last song was Dam Hoga Pura Son, and he'd be singing it as he's walking off the stage. So listen, while they're still playing, he's in the back in the changing rooms, and they're still obviously systems are going. And when it stopped, they can't see Safri. So obviously,
I think you should sing it as a team. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
What are we singing?
Maybe not.
Counting up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5. See, he's a drummer, right? He's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I used to catch him up all the time. Use your time extra.
Yeah.
All right, we'll say this. You get it? Go on, Happy. Go on.
1,
What was it?
2, 3, 4.
What? What are you doing?
Good wait for it.
हो गया पूरा मामे
मामे
Alright, press play.
We are
Hold on, let me press play on the CD.
Yeah, that used to be basically every wedding we used to drop that.
And you know what? Yeah, mind the pun. We actually had run out of time, guys. But one thing, I want to kind of ask just before we kind of sign off is, Safri's music is legacy. The Safri Boys are legacy and legends. Would you guys come together and recreate some of those songs with whichever artist you do, just to honour Safri next year? Because we'd love to see it.
Watch this space.
Watch this space, yes.